hello and welcome to everyone. This is Creating the Future's Integrity Team meeting for June 27th, 2022. It is wonderful to see all your faces. If by any chance, I have not heard from anybody that they're going to be watching and tweeting, but if by any chance you are, please tweet any of your comments and questions to the hashtag Creating the Future. It's the only place we're going to look is on Twitter. So the hashtag is Creating the Future. And we look forward to having you join in however you are. We've got lots of people with us today, which is always fun. And let's get started by just going around and bringing ourselves into the room, getting present. By sharing what's been meaningful in your lives. And I have to share just from the start that I put on this shirt today and I said, watch, Beatriz is going to have this shirt on. This is the second time we've done this.
I was thinking the same. I'm like, I think that I was wearing one of these.
So yeah, I saw you pop up and I went, there we go. But if you all will just share where you are located, something that's meaningful in your life. And when you share where you are located, please acknowledge the people whose lands these were before, especially if you're in North America or South America, or actually Australia, might as well just anywhere, whose lands these were before they were stolen. We so often talk about this as a land acknowledgement, and at Creating the Future, we believe that everything is always about the people. It's really not acknowledging the land that was stolen, it's acknowledging the people from whom it was stolen, and honoring those people. So if you will introduce yourself, tell us where you are located and whose lands those are, and something that's meaningful in your life. And I'll start the ball rolling by picking on a couple people, and then you guys can just sort of pop around and say hello. And being as we are now sisters in the shirt, I will start with you, Beatriz.
Let's do it. It's too funny because I was thinking about the same. I'm like, oh God, this shirt. So hello everyone, I'm Beatriz Paniego Bellar, Beatriz Paniego Bejar. I'm in the Piscataway land, but also the Anacostans, Nakotchak, and Pamunkey. So DC and the area, in Washington, DC. Something that has been awesome or meaningful in my life lately, I'm saying goodbye to DC because I'm moving in August to Sweden, and I'm just full of activities by saying goodbye to people, and I'm not realizing that I'm moving. And I think it's when I start thinking a little bit about it, like today I sold a pieces of furniture and I started to pull things out, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is real, this is happening. But because I've been so busy, enjoying my people here, I haven't processed what it's coming. So I got a little bit of an anxiety attack this morning, but I'm excited for what's coming. That is for sure. I know it's a great step. So I'm grateful for all the people that I have met, not only in DC, but in my time in Sarasota for sure. And that it's my awesome. I am so blessed.
Oh, well, it is it is a gift that you have been here. And I would start to worry about you if you were not having an anxiety attack. So moving halfway around the world again, you've done it once, doing it again. Yeah. And we're here rooting you on. So
thank you, Hildy.
Absolutely. Sherry, how about you? Where are you located and what's been meaningful in your life?
I am in the Parrish, Florida area, close to Bradenton and Sarasota in Manatee County. So on the beautiful Gulf Coast of Florida. We love our white sand beaches here. Meaningful, first off is our Native American heritage is Calusa Indians. And meaningful has been, probably the last year journey of starting to work consulting after a lot of years in government only work, and getting to work with people that are really interested in having conversations and improving their community.
That's always cool. Always wonderful. Thank you. Ron Bulmer, how are you doing this morning?
Hi, I'm doing well, thanks. Here from Nova Scotia on the Bay of Fundy shoreline, the ancient lands of the Mi'kmaq. This is one of the first times I've had a meeting on internet. We just got internet out here. It's an old family cottage that we are now placeholders in line before our kids come along, I guess. So that's been an exciting transition for us to take over the guardianship of this spot that we've enjoyed for, well, my dad built it back in the 70s. So with the help of the community here. So it's been a great spot for us.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, it sounds, I have to say, the first thought I had is, can we come visit?
Please do. Love to have visitors.
Well, wonderful to have you here. Andrew, how about you?
Oh man, I'm in Los Angeles, the land of the Tongvar people, and there's a lot of awesome right now. So I'm trying to choose one. For those of you who I've met before and have been on these calls before, and I've mentioned before, my family's been doing some construction on our garage, converting our garage into a livable space, and it's like 90% of the way there. So it's pretty amazing to know that we're going to have that space shortly. But it's also actually been a really amazing process to watch. I have never sort of been up close with construction work before, and we have a 7-year-old daughter, and every night we go out and look and see the progress that's been made. And our contractor has started calling her the project manager because she's up on what's going on and what needs to happen. So it's been sort of fun on a number of levels.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I'm glad it's going along so nicely.
Thank you.
It's great. That's great. Josephine, how about you?
Hi there. I am in Sarasota, Florida. The Native American tribes of Calusa, Tocobaga, and Timucua people. What's good in my life is comes out of sort of a crisis tragedy for a really close friend of mine. And their family is going through some pretty horrific times right now. And I think the what's good is the understanding of support of the people around us, that I can really understand, as a friend, how to be there the best way possible. And for my friend and his family, and then on the other end of it, it's traumatic for me as well. And my other friends are there for me. So the what's good is that connection and leaning on folks. And like, I wasn't at the internal or the Zoom last week, and last minute text Sherry, there's a crisis, and I thought I would try to be here, and I knew I wouldn't really be there. And just the support in her text was, I completely get it, you're fine, we'll touch base later, like no worries. So just that appreciation of that human understanding and connection really, really makes a difference and allows the people that really, really need the support to get it. So just grateful for all of that.
Wow. Wow. Huge. Huge. Oh, thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
Elaine, how about you?
Hello, everybody. I hope I can speak in between the hammering and things that are going on at my house. I am joining you from a place just north of Toronto, Canada, Dufferin County, in a beautiful rural landscape. And Dufferin County resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Teonatate, Atawandaron, Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabes people. Lots of things that are to be grateful for, but what's awesome in my life right now is we have electricians here and plumbers here and heating and air conditioning duct people here. We have a large renovation project going on, and so the place is a disaster, but things are moving forward, and that makes me happy.
Seems to be the theme among us today.
Yes, and I have no toilet still.
Well, welcome to my land. Well, thank you. We're glad you're here. Carl, how about you?
Hi everyone, I'm Carl. I'm doing good. I'm in a village called Wheathampstead, just outside London in the UK. What's awesome for me at the minute, well, work stuff, is that I was asked the other day to mentor someone who is sort of on their way up in the world of work. And we had our first meeting, and as someone who is on the way down in the world of work, she fed back and said it was brilliant, and that makes me feel awesome. And then on a personal basis, I think I said this last time, my son's home from university, and he's got some paid work, and he came on with his first pay packet on Friday, and he bought me a beer. That's brilliant.
Well, last time you mentioned you were sharing a beer, and now he's buying. That's a big step. Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Madeline, how about you?
Hi, everybody. I'm joining you today from the land of the Anishinaabe and Wyandot Nation, colonially known as Ann Arbor, Michigan. And what is awesome for me right now is that my sister is getting married in September, and we had a shower for her on Sunday, and it was just awesome to see my little baby sister getting all grown up and being supported by all these other amazing women around us in our lives. So joy and a little bit of sadness that she's not such a baby anymore.
That happens. That's wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for letting us know. Lori, how about you?
Here. Hi, thanks. I am sitting at home in on Orcas Island, Washington, which is the home of, as best as people are still figuring out, Coast Salish and Haida and Swinomish. There's another one I really should write down. I noticed people wrote this down for themselves so that they have it handy. I'll do that. Lots of people, Lummi people, and it's a very active reclaiming set of things going on right now too, which is there's so much that I don't know, and I'm learning. I can't remember the adjective you used, Hildy, my wonderful or my remarkable or whatever it was.
Whatever.
As we were ending the call on Friday, and I was just like, got more out of the 20 minutes I managed to catch with everyone than I could possibly imagine. This wonderful family who lives here, former birth family, 2 sets of twins. So we have a lot of history. They came over because their mom and dad remembered a conversation that we had had where both Mike's and LJ's, the parents, mothers, and I, in the same years, were working. So this is 1972. We were all in high school working for abortion access in our various states and high schools. And they came over to say, don't worry, you did stuff and will do stuff. And these kids are 8 and 5. And they, you know, in conversations talking with their own grandmas, and of course their wonderful mom and dad, like there's stuff they get just that whole thing about body, my body and yours, and how important anyway, I was blown away, and those two things together, it's like, okay, my life could end today, and I'm good. So yeah.
Oh, how wonderful. Just that whole sense of we've got you, we've got this, we're on it. Oh,
And recognizing, I'm just like, oh my God, my kids and our granddaughters and all these people we know are going to have to go through the same shit all over again, all that work. And then they just show up and it's like, yeah. Not like, oh, it's okay. Just like, yeah.
yeah. Wow. Wow. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Kim, how about you?
Hello, everyone. So I'm from Edmonton, Alberta. Well, my office is in Edmonton, Alberta, and I live an hour southwest of that. And it's the traditional lands of the Cree, Nakota, Saulteaux, and Dene, as well as a traveling land for many, many others, and the homeland of the Métis. And I'm just very grateful to be able to live and learn from everyone that I know in this area. And something meaningful for me right now is my daughter struggles a lot with anxiety. She's in high school, and so she's in the middle of finals and lots of test anxiety and everything. And I'm really trying. I'm very proud of her that she's done so good this year at getting through school and tests and everything. And she's writing her last one right now, so I may get a text in the middle of this saying I'm done. But just trying to help her recognize all the work she did to get there, and that she's done an amazing job. So it wasn't an easy year for her. So,
well, good for her and good for you, Mom.
thanks.
Definitely. Awesome. Mark, hello.
I lost the link. Sorry, I'm late. Wondering if resilience is an awesome thing. We're seeing a lot of setbacks in our town, which is on the Korchog lands and the Shinnecock. I've got to dive into that a little more, not even deeply, but just more to find out, because there's an article out there, or there's a paper out there, that these were not really tribes, that they were families on this island, which is a big unlearning experience for us. And we need to be more involved with them, talk about community engagement. And what we are finding, though, is that the setbacks that we're seeing in our town government are exactly like the national situation across the board, self-centeredness and the rest. But we're finding people that within our small government that are stepping forward to help at this point, because they don't like where things are going either. So that's exciting.
Wonderful, wonderful. Boy, that whole needing to learn, I hope that all of us, in addition to being able to state the names of the people whose lands we are sitting on, are encouraged to learn about them. They're people. They were here before us. They're our forebears. So thank you for that, Mark. Absolutely. Rachel, how about you?
Yeah, hi. So I'm currently in Miami Beach, which was originally home to the Tequesta tribe. And something meaningful to me right now is just being at this conference. So I'm at the Grantmakers in Health Conference. And it's literally my second week with the Patterson Foundation, and they've sent me here because they just know that I have an interest in women's health specifically, and like philanthropy's potential in that. And so similar to Lori, we had a wonderful opening plenary with Bob Ross. And I mean, Roe v. Wade was very much a big topic of discussion, and talking about how it's about power and not thinking of philanthropy as innovation just for the sake of innovation, but taking that kind of off the pedestal and centering it around power and using our resources to build up that power and amplify the voices of people who are affected. So I'm really grateful to be here and be learning with people who are like-minded in this, and just exploring that topic more throughout this conference.
Wow, what a powerful time to be together. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Justin, are you here? You with us?
Yes, I am. I am just eating, so I'm off screen for a little bit. I am here sitting on land upon which the Nakach tank lives, so right there, right near Beatrice. And I am still relishing the fact that the Smithsonian Museum, which runs for those of you who might not know, every summer they have something called the Folklife Festival, where they bring in usually two or three cultures. So one is actually usually domestic and the other is international. This year, the domestic culture was the environment, which I thought was interesting. So they had a whole section just on the environment and environmental sustainability. And then the international group or the international representative was United Arab Emirates. And so they have a lot of cultural displays and opportunities to learn. And so I went down with my younger daughter, and it was, she complained that it was hot, but it was only 90 degrees in DC and not very humid, which for the Folklife Festival is like pleasant and enjoyable. So I got to just spend the day with her, wandering around and looking at stuff and learning. And that was my high for the weekend.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Awesome. Alicia, how about you?
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Alicia. I'm here in Bradenton, Florida, the ancient lands of Calusa and Cherokee, which we often teach to our children in school based off of our standards. What I did not know is the Sioux and the Iroquois tribes. I have never even heard of them. So I'll be doing some research, and I see they were also here in Bradenton. So that was good to find out. Big news for us is definitely, it's huge on our scale in this house. As Sherry talked about when we were together on Friday, developers are taking over and it's like the community can't catch up. So we are on every wait list for daycare for my 1-year-old from here all the way to like 2 towns over. And we officially are in starting next week. My baby is going to daycare. So we are like, I'm mentally preparing. We're trying to like, oh, we'll get you a blanket. It's going to be great. And then the big one now just wants to go to Target to get her supplies because she sees that the other one's going to school. So, yep, we're in June and we're talking about school here. So big news for us.
That is big news. That's great, Mama. Good job.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Angie, how about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Angie Eikenberry. I'm on the Omaha Sioux Nation's land in Omaha, Nebraska. And yeah, my baby is going off to college. So that's the big, I guess, news or plans that we're making. And I'm very grateful. I hope I don't start crying. That she's going to DC where she'll at least be able to make decisions about her own body. And hopefully she'll be able to remain there and not come back here where they're trying to do everything they can to take away our rights. So sorry, that was a downer. I didn't mean to. I'm having a like dark time right now. So hopefully today will help me get out of that. Thank you.
Well, it's why, you know, when we talk about what's awesome is not necessarily, hey, it's awesome, it's great. It contains awe. You know, it's why we ask about what's meaningful. And thank you for sharing that, because it's sitting with many of us. It's sitting with many of us. Dimitri.
Can I change my answer?
You can change your answer, honey. How can I stop you? Dimitri, how about you? I will hand over the mic.
I am Dimitri Petropoulos. Welcome, everyone. I am in Tucson, Arizona, and this is the home of the Tohono O'odham. Brief story on them. For the longest time, we called them, we as white people, the Papago. And it is awesome that they reached a point where they could be naming themselves as opposed to being named initially by the Spaniards. So I'm kind of honored to be able to tell them, thank you for telling us who you are, as opposed to us telling you who you are. My awesome is child related. As some of you have been sharing, we have a tradition of calling and video calling our new little grandbaby, and it's actually her dad and her, and get to watch her run around. She's not talking yet, but she clearly knows that we're on the screen and will answer questions or point to things or do things. And it's just incredible to watch her from week to week. As a parent, you don't see those changes like that. You might see it over weeks time, but to be able to see her last week and see her this week and see her next week is just remarkable and awesome and wonderful, and gives me hope for the future of our planet and us and everything else.
Yep. I'll share that. Awesome. I'll share that. Awesome. I am located next to Dimitri, who's over there, on lands that were taken from the Tohono people. I'm going to read you all my awesome for the day, because life has been so weird. It's been so simultaneously good and crap. And it's real easy to let the bad stuff get you down. And this week's been, many of us are feeling it, even those of you, and thank you to those of you who are outside the US who have been sending notes saying, sort of, what the hell's wrong with you people? But that's a whole nother, it's a whole nother thing. But lots of awesomes. It was nice this weekend to do nothing. We intentionally set no expectations. We're not going to a movie. We're not going anywhere we need to be at a specific time, with the exception of being online to see Athena and another friend. I read a book. I mean, it's just, sometimes it's just delightful to not have to be anywhere or do anything. And then I woke up this morning and there was I'm on the newsletter list. Some of you may also be, for the Pennsylvania Association of Nonprofits. Pano sent out a note. Now, a little bit of background. In 2014, Pano's entire staff and some of their board members went through our immersion training. So they learned catalytic thinking. And then in 2015, when we went to an online immersion over several months, the person who is now in charge of their education programs, Christina, went through that program for several months. And so Pano is sort of sisters to us. We're always happy to see what they're doing. And I see you nodding, Andrew. You saw it as well. I bet it resonated with you as well. Here's the note that came out of them. Pano invites you to lead the change. Now, see how many of these words sound like catalytic thinking and sound like us. Pano invites you to lead the change. As a hub for and collaborator with community benefit organizations, Pano invites staff, board members, and volunteers from across Pennsylvania to join assessment cohorts and lead the change in this important initiative. What exactly is best about the 66 best practices that make up the standards for excellence, and best for whom? This is where you come in. Who better to help answer these questions than the very professionals asked to abide by these practices in their everyday work? So I just read that and I went, oh my gosh, there's like all of these phrases just popped out at me as almost cut and paste. And it was like, this is why we're here. This is why we're here. So that some of you have heard me say that for a very, very long time, we used to joke that we would know our mission was successful when people we've never heard of are asking questions of other people we've never heard of, and we never know about it. And the questions are aligned with catalytic thinking. And this was just, oh my gosh, nobody reading this would have said, oh my goodness, that sounds like creating the future. And that's the point. That's what it looks like when things become normal. And so that was my awesome this morning. It felt wonderful. I also need to say that I had two I was in 2 meetings last week that were also awesome, and most, one of all of you were in at least one of those. I had a wonderful opportunity to spend time with the group that Elaine coordinates. And that was a highlight of my day. That was absolutely, I was high. It actually made some changes in the way I'm thinking about doing some things that I'm doing. So I'm grateful to you for that. And then on Friday, our cohort, many of whom are sitting here, got together, just us, just privately, and spent the time getting to know each other. And that is such a key and critical part of community engagement. So that was also a high of my day. That was first thing in my morning, and got to spend the rest of my day going, I don't care what the rest of the day is. This was a good one. So so thank you all for that. You all were part of my awesomes. All righty. We are going to dive in and pick up where we were last time. I'm going to once again copy and paste the link. This is the summary. Thank you, Jackie Bradley, who could not be here today, but we are always so grateful to Jackie for pulling together that summary of our time together last time, if that is helpful for any of you. And we're going to keep going, using catalytic thinking to focus on community engagement and actually create a community engagement plan. Last time we were together, we asked the very, very first couple of questions in catalytic thinking. The first one being, who will be affected by whatever we do when it comes to engaging the community, when it comes to the real question that we want to engage around, which is what's next for creating the future. Why did that get paused? There we go, sorry. Who will be affected by that? That question of, what will it make possible, and for whom? Who are all those for whom's? Whose lives will be touched by what we do? And we came up with a list that you'll see in the notes that are in the chat. And then we started to just talk about, why is community engagement important, period? What's important about it? Why do we do this? And what makes it solid? And what have you experienced? Just really listening to all of us, to our voices of what's been frustrating, what's been good in terms of community engagement. The words that really popped out when I started to listen to what we were talking about and to reread the summary: trust, authenticity, communication, two-way mutual accountability. I love the two-way. Listening, connection, and slow. Those were words that popped out to me. And so what we're going to talk about today is that the next question in catalytic thinking, which is, okay, with all of those people in mind, usually the question is, what will it take to not only listen to them, but engage them in this conversation? But that's the point of our plan, is what will it take to engage folks in the conversation. So right now we're going to just focus on what would engagement make possible for all of those people, including creating the future and not necessarily creating the future. What would engagement make possible for them? What is the best possible outcome for all those people if they engage with us and we engage with them? And maybe it's easier to start if I ask you all, what has engaging with creating the future made possible for you? You can answer either of those.
I think Andrew should go because his mic is on.
Well, is it? Oh man, sorry about that.
Kim.
When you phrase the question that way, so I saw your webinar with ECVO up here right before we underwent this transition in my organization. We had two co-executive directors. My co was retiring, and they were making me the sole executive director, and our board had asked me to do like a vision and how to move the organization forward. And I'd just taken your workshop, and I was really inspired, and it really helped me put that vision into words, things that I've been feeling because I've been with the organization for 19 years now. So it's just things that I've been just feeling over the years, because I started as a frontline facilitator and I've gone through kind of the whole organization. And it really helped me ask different questions right then. I'm definitely not proficient at it yet, but it helped me look beyond and what that future state, what did I want that future state to be? And is that something we could work towards? And then at our planning meeting, I have a new team, and our planning meeting this last Friday, which is why I couldn't come to the cohort, we started with asking some of those questions again. And it was really interesting how different the conversation was than I'm used to with our teams in the past. And I think it set us up to look at things differently and look at what are the risks we can take? What can we do if we decide to do it this way? And it's been very, very fulfilling and very positive so far.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Madeline asked in the chat, what is the best way? I think with all of us here, if you all could raise your hand, that would be great. That'd be great. Thank you for asking, Madeline. Sherry, how about you?
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking, as you mentioned too, about, last week we had two really good sessions, really good time to talk and listen. And it made me think that that engagement that we're working on together it allows us to honestly stop for a moment and really think about what we want to say, but also really listen to what everybody else is saying. A lot of times, you're speeding through questions, you're just trying to get through them. But this engagement type process allows you to really think and study the concepts other people are talking about. And when they resonate, you absolutely learn something that you have in common, but also that you have the opportunity to go back and think about what got you here in the first place. Why do you care about conversations? Why do you care about listening to people? What is the importance of it? So I think for me, and like the end of last week, as you said, I felt good about, okay, we spent some time really talking and learning about each other. Now it puts into perspective like a conversation we're having today, which is, I know where people are starting to come from and why, and interested in digging further.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. For those who were not in the cohort conversation on Friday, we really spent 2 hours just getting to know each other. Everyone spent 5-10 minutes telling their story. What brought you into the room? I started in high school. Some of us started 2 weeks ago. Doesn't matter where the story starts, but really just taking that slow time to get to know each other. And everyone was remarking on the power of that. So, Mark.
Yeah, so the engagement turns into empowerment. And I've also expanded the concept of community to mean the 5 board members and the 3 other people that work in our very small nonprofit. The community there is very tight knit. They've been around for a long time. They've got a lot of knowledge, and somebody who just came onto the team was all surprised when I asked her. I said, well, what do you think about this? And she said, well, I'll just do what you tell me to do. I said, well, that's not how I work. You're here because you have a certain talent set or a knowledge base or an experience in life and all the work we're doing. That's why you're here. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'll make some suggestions, but our admin, just like Jackie, I mean, we value our admin so much. She's got her degree in environmental science. Why would you possibly just let her do calendaring or emails? What a waste of talent. So that's a community. The other community that we we talk about in that sense are the civic associations. And they're definitely community, and they're a sub-community of the entire population. They don't necessarily represent the other 3,000 people who live in that neighborhood. So we've got to rethink how we include those people. We're struggling right now. And the other community is the people who are inside our local government. They are a community. They've been working together for 10 or 20 years or whatever have you, or they're young people. I'm very excited about the young people that are coming in with fresh ideas, and they want to do things, and they haven't been stifled by the system. They've certainly got people at the top that need to win the lottery and go away, but we're working on it. So again, that community of professionals in planning, in engineering, in whatever have you in the government, taxation. I mean, somebody came out just at the end of a big meeting, came out and says, we need to reset all of our tax whatever's assessments. And this is coming from somebody who should be doing that already. But because our government is so static and stayed in their ways and afraid of change and everything else. So the community that I'm working with are the people in that next strata who have ideas, who haven't been beaten to death and just want to collect their check.
And a lot of what that's pointing to is the power of the question that we were asking last time, which is who will be impacted by whatever we decide, and asking that, just the ripples that can come from that. Yeah, thank you, Mark. Really powerful. Carl.
So first, I wanted to sort of give an upvote to what Sherry said. We're losing. The pandemic has been really bad in terms of it's accelerated some trends, certainly here in the UK. And one of them is that we're losing the ability to talk to each other and to talk to each other in a civil manner. And we need spaces and places where we can practice things like how to disagree with each other civilly, because we're losing those skills, and engagement offers an opportunity to do that. But then the second thing that I sort of thought was the other thing that the pandemic has accelerated is loneliness. And I mean, this probably doesn't quite apply to the sort of community that we're talking about, but literally people are lonely, and opportunities for anyone to just talk to others, I think have got to be a good thing.
Wow, absolutely. Absolutely. Dimitri has asked me to, and I will do so, to post the question that we're talking about, but I will repeat it now, which is what does engagement make possible? Either in general, what you have seen engagement make possible, what has it made possible for you? Elaine.
Thank you, Hildy. It's interesting because even as I participate, I get more ahas about what can be made possible. And especially when we had the session with you last week and the questions that were being asked by the participants. So in this environment we're all operating in now, we're all talking about inclusion and diversity and equity. And in my mind, having a common ground, common space to ask questions from allows people to be included. It allows everybody to come together for common ground. It's grounding. It allows people to come with their passions so that we can collaborate. I think it allows us to listen and respect the diversity by listening, as Sherry was saying. And, you said it yourself, the voices are out there. We're just not listening to them. So I think it's a big commitment to actually listen. And if we don't ask the question for people to be able to respond, then how can you listen? And I guess the other thing too, and this came up in our session last week, was power and dispersing power to any single person who is at the table, who can ask a question. And that was a really big aha for me, because it's not somebody else's agenda. And if it is, you can still participate by asking that question that gives pause. And I think the other thing, in addition to what our friend over there in Britain was saying, where did you go on my screen? Anyway, yes, there he is, Carl. It allows people to think. We don't spend time thinking anymore. It's all about doing. And I heard somewhere recently that thinking is action, whereas people dismiss that. But we just don't get enough time to actually think and deep think about things and explore that together. So I think there's so many possibilities from this. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, and there's so much in what you said. That whole thing about engagement shifting power. I'm thinking about, and many of you have heard me tell the story of the food bank that we've been doing a demonstration project with, where their planning was to go, was to include and engage community members. And what the community members aspired to, what the community members valued, that became the plan. And that to me is the height of engagement shifting power. Yeah, thank you for that, Elaine. Dimitri, let me get myself.
Sort of on the coattails of what Elaine was talking about, it also allows you to squash your own assumptions. And assumptions are about me, they're not about you. And until you and I engage, I believe certain things about you. I look at a facial expression, I look at your clothes, I look at, what I think your job is, I think whatever. And until I engage with you, that's what I believe. And once I engage, I begin changing my beliefs. And so I think one of the most powerful things is the fact that, and we all know that the more you travel, the more you meet people, the more you whatever, the broader your compassion is, because it's about everyone else and not just about you. So.
Wow, thank you. Beatriz.
So many thoughts are going through my head, but I was at the Supreme Court on Friday after the decision came, and I remember thinking again, I see so many white faces, and I know many will be as well, might be Latinas, but then the speakers were Black organizers and ready to fight. And they were calling for all the Black women that were there also protesting to come forward. And I kept on thinking about what is the work that we are doing. I know it is what I keep on thinking, and I was thinking so much about one of the conversations we had a while ago in this kind of forum, Healthy, about how we need to step away sometimes to give people that are going to be most affected about the issues that we are trying to solve, so they have that voice. Is not somebody else making decisions for them. And I remember during the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020 as well, that is one of the things that many of the organizers were saying, you can show up as an ally, but make sure that the people that are on the microphone are the people that are most affected by it. And so I continue thinking about that, how even in my work, I know I haven't lived the experiences of many of the people that we are trying to help the most. And so sometimes I feel, and I think I've shared this already, I'm an imposter or fake, I know maybe people are not gonna open up to me the same way that they might open up to somebody that they know has had a very similar path. And that's why I always try to be extremely humble and being completely willing to listen, understanding, never judging. But it is what you were saying, Dimitri, right? The perception as well about what people think about you when they look at you. And some people might be, intimidated because, they think, this white woman. Although when I start speaking Spanish, that gives them, another entrance. And so it's different. But yeah, I wonder so many times, how do we help actually the people that we are trying to help, not with this savior complex, but actually being there to support them in the way that they need to be supported.
One of the things that we teach when we teach catalytic thinking is that the things that people say parenthetically, the things that people say sort of as a side or under their breath, are actually the things that are the most meaningful to them. And the last sentence that you said, Beatriz, was you almost offhandedly said, not in a way that's a savior complex, but that right there is a huge one. That right there is a huge one. What engagement makes possible is getting beyond that savior crap. Yeah. So thank you for that. And by the way, just as a catalytic thinking lesson, listen for the stuff people say under their breath. The stuff we say under our breath, I really, really like him. He's a real jerk sometimes, but I really, really like him. The stuff we say under our breath is actually the stuff that we're thinking. Yeah, it's the stuff I love to pay attention to because it's frequently brilliant, just like what you just said, Fanti. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. What else have you seen engagement make possible? What does engagement make possible for the people who we are engaging, specifically for them? Let's not talk about us for right now. Yeah, Madeline.
I think ultimately I've seen that our work is more successful because we are building things that are meeting the actual needs of the people we're working to engage with. And when we're building it together, we're more likely to interact and keep working with them. And then at the end of the day, it makes my services less necessary because I've been able to share my knowledge and expertise, and folks no longer need me because I've helped to build the capacity of the group, which to me is what successful in leadership and mentorship is when I am no longer needed because I've raised empowered and capable folks coming up.
Wonderful. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Rachel.
I think it allows them and gives them a space to reflect on what they want and what they need and, set those priorities and be a real advocate for themselves. And so creating that effective space that also feels comfortable and trustworthy, like having the two-way trust, can really give them that opportunity, which can be powerful.
That's huge. That is huge. Nobody gives us the space to reflect on anything these days. We are constantly being goaded into reacting. And that, yeah, thank you, Rachel. Ron.
Yeah, we had an interesting process unfolding, I guess, in our community. There was going to be a 9 or 10 acre parcel being developed nearby, which started to look like about a 20-unit apartment building. And so the community, our little community, got involved and with the planners of the city. And as it turned out, we ended up, they found someone to actually plot the old growth forest, like old white pine, eastern hemlock, those kinds of trees on this particular area. And the city, surprisingly, I guess, took that and some other information too into consideration. And it kind of opened up the question of what are the rights of nature kind of within development, and how does that impact these decisions? And it's going to be interesting to see how it progresses, but I found that very encouraging that the planners actually responded to this input so positively.
Wow.
So far.
Wow. That's incredible. It's a beautiful question. What are the rights of nature? Yeah. Madeline.
I want to chime in one more time because I think it also, engagement helps to eliminate that barrier between us and them. I've been doing a thought experiment personally where I'm trying to use collective language as much as possible. So instead of saying they, them, changing that with we and our, and how much that changes the frame of the questions that I'm asking and the accountability that I have with the project and that we have with the project, and what that means for me to be part of the community or not. And I hear a lot of that in this call too, and I'm struggling personally with like, how are we talking about engagement without saying they or them versus us and we? And is that difference real or something that we have constructed? I'm not sure, but just another interesting thought experiment.
Wow. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Language changes everything. Language changes everything, and that's a powerful one. Yeah, one of the things that we always talk about with community engagement is people talk about going out to the community, as if it's out there and we're in here. That wall suddenly makes us different or separate or something. It's why I loved, Mark, when you were talking about the various communities you're seeing. Yeah. Justin.
So I think this is echoing just some of the strong themes, but one of the pieces that I think is, the consistently comes up when I talk to people about times when they felt engaged and how they defined what was going on. Almost everyone says they were learning. So that there was actually not just a contribution component to it, but there was a receptiveness that, I was learning something. I think going back to what Carl kicked off, people feeling connected. I was actually just having this conversation, and it becomes very clear that the whole idea of engagement is not defined by the engaging party, but by actually the engagee. That, I might go up and go do gardening at my kid's school and find it that I'm just participating. They tell me to dig a hole, I dig a hole, like it's not engagement. Whereas someone else could be doing the exact same thing and they call it engaging. They feel engaged. And so really teasing out that it's not the actual activity, but it really is so much of what people are talking about, that being engaged is an emotional response to what you are doing. And it does have to do with feeling that it's aligned with who you are and your passion, that you're learning, that you're connected. And certainly that sense of agency or efficacy, that you can actually affect the outcome of something based on who you are. And I think that that's a piece that we often miss, even when we think about sort of the empowerment. And it's like, it's not just that you can affect the change, but you can actually affect the change in alignment with what your passions are.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm thinking about the fact that all of us have, many of us are related to work. So you're here because your work called you to be here for whatever reason, but we're also involved in other things. When you have been engaged and involved in things outside your work, why? What has that involvement, that engagement made possible for you? When someone engaged you in something other than I got to be here. I like being here, but I got to be here. What did that make possible for you? That engagement. What What did it bring out in you? And Justin, I love what you just said, an expression of who you are. Yeah, Elaine.
Yeah, so for me, different things that I've been involved in, right from when my children started school and being in the classroom, engaging in the classroom with the other marvelous little kids that were there, and doing whatever I could to, help the teacher's role, and then being part of the community garden and planting that garden, and being part of other groups within my community to stop solar farms, to stand up for the environment and things like that. They did speak to what I have a passion for and gave me an opportunity to participate, and also made me feel connected and made me feel like I could make a difference.
Yeah. We've been dancing around that one. I think it's really worth stating very clearly, helping people feel like they can make a difference, because it's so easy to feel, I frequently talk about it. Many of you have heard me talk about it as the just us. I'm just a volunteer. I'm just a community member. And helping people to feel that they can make a difference, feel their own agency, see their own agency. That's really, really big, really big. What else? What else has being engaged in something outside of your work that you were possibly invited to, or you stepped into? What does it make possible for you as the person being engaged? Yeah, Sherry.
Meeting more people, getting to know more people, getting to hear the thoughts and examples of other relationships involved in working together in something. Just makes you feel like you're expanding your reach, not your reach personally because of something you need to get to, but expanding your reach and ability and knowledge. It's always, to me, seems you gain at least one or two new relationships that you can rely upon contacting again if you have questions, or you are not sure about something you heard from a particular group, or you are able to help them connect with something that that they expressed that you've been a part of. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. The people part.
Right.
The people part. Absolutely. Yeah, we talked so much about relationships last time. Just what it makes possible is we need that. How many of us started out talking about, Carl, you were talking about during COVID, the loneliness, the disconnectedness. It makes possible connection. Yeah, awesome. Josephine.
Just sort of following along with what everyone has said, but I think we're similar in, how we feel when we felt engaged, like what that brings up for us. But definitely it's top experiences feeling valued. And so for me, and outside of work, as well as work, but the question really is outside of work, is you feel like you're valued in the time that you're giving and your thoughts about it and what you bring to the table. And then that in turn makes you connected in such a stronger level, that you want to follow up, that you want to come back, that you care about what's going on, versus the times that you don't feel like. And for me, I just keep seeing really the stark difference of each of those sides. Like when you just don't feel valued at all, then that comes with its own set of yuckiness. And if you're engaged and valued, you participate on such a different level.
Boy, I wish Farah were here today. Farah is one of our board members, for several reasons. But I had shared with her a book that I'm reading. It's called Age of Anger. And I'm horrible at remember authors' names, which is really crappy because I'm an author and it would be nice if somebody remembered my name, but I'm really bad with authors' names. But it's called Age of Anger. And this brilliant historian, it's a dense book. So I'm reading 10 pages a day and assigning myself 10 pages a day because it's brilliant. But it's one of those where I'm scribbling in the margins and just all over the place. It's got me thinking. And what he's basically talking about is the fact that during the Age of Enlightenment, so during the 18th century, the 1700s, when science started to replace religion, we lost that context. It basically was the start of modernity. Was the start of so the 1800s during that time was when industrialization started, when capitalism started to rise, when colonialism became the thing. All of that happened in that small time period, and the shift that happened was that we used to believe, the fact that it was factually an error. We used to believe that everything revolved around the earth and that God created that, and that religion was the center of everything. And what that told us is that we had a sense of context. We knew where we fit. It might have sucked, but we knew where we fit. The king was the king because God made him the king, and we understood where everything, and that what has happened since then is an alienation, because that Age of Enlightenment also focused on we have power and started that whole individualist sense. And the piece that you're talking about, Josephine, about feeling valued, what he talks about is that all of what has happened since then has made us more and more alienated. And why he calls it Age of Anger is it's a history of how people have rebelled against not feeling valued, how people have rebelled against the fact that this culture of individualism, by definition, sets us against each other, and sets us in competition to each other. And that whole piece about being valued is so huge. And what he's really talking about is why do populist movements get started? Why are so many people so angry? And what are they really angry at? And it's real easy to say, I'm angry at this group and that group and these political people and this party and this blah, blah, blah. And what they're really angry at is the frustration of life that is not valuing people for people. And that we are encouraged not to value each other, because you can't be in competition with each other when you're valuing each other. Like I said, it is a brilliant book. It is a difficult read, because this guy is so freaking brilliant. There's so much in every sentence that I just want to sit with every sentence. But that whole piece about we've created a society where the context is not valuing each other. That's a really, really big one. Thank you, Josephine. That sparked a lot for me. Yeah.
I know that there are two hands up, but if you don't mind, I wanted to just jump on this, because I thinking about Roe versus Wade as well, like what I was thinking about Jane, I don't know her last name, but right, how she felt that she didn't belong with the group of women that were representing her. I remember hearing there's a play that goes about that, but how she didn't feel like all these white women that had PhDs, that had degrees, were just telling her what to do. And then she completely turned from being pro-choice to be pro-life, because she moved next to a pastor or something that made her feel part of a group. And I kept on thinking about that, and thinking about it as well with all the Proud Boys and January 6th and all these people that are just angry that, you know, it seems that the world is not helping them and that they are separated now. And how it is that, just that sense of belonging, of feeling part of something and someone in a group. Sorry, Mark and Ron.
Thank you, Beatrice. Thank you. Mark.
No, I know the feeling, Beatrice. I'm the worst at that. I jump in because I must. But I have my hand up. One of the things I'm finding that by engaging people is that I get to work a lot less, because you find something that somebody wants to do and it takes it off your desk. But I'm not doing less. I'm just doing more of the things that I really want to do. So that's a self-perpetuating, you know, symbiosis, I think, too.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't even really talked about what community engagement makes possible for creating the future. So yeah. Ron.
Yeah, what you were saying, Hildy, and I think Sherry was talking about this a little bit too, with the people that come with engagement. I think it's very easy for us to feel disengaged and helpless when these populist movements, for example, are quite strong and ugly in many senses and don't represent many of our values that we want to pass down to our kids. And I think engagement can give us, when we engage with like-minded people, it gives you encouragement and kind of a personal energy to work through the friction that Carl mentioned last time, that all these things have as part of the process. It takes a lot of commitment, and if you can be around like-minded people, I think it sort of gives you that sense of hope and community all in one, which ends up often being a lot of fun as well. So that's a nice antidote to disengagement and bleak kind of helplessness.
Yeah. It's you know, interestingly, it's such a human thing what you're talking about, Ron, because that is, you know, Beatrice mentioned the Proud Boys. That's what they're feeling also. They're feeling a place where they're engaged and connected, and somebody gets them. And so it is a human need. Yeah, absolutely. Alicia.
Yeah, hearing everyone talk about this, it really just makes me think of the mental health crisis going on with our children right now. Children in America, I mean, since the cell phone, since the pandemic, I'm telling you, it's devastating. I've seen it firsthand. And it just makes you sit back and think, like, have I engaged enough? Even with any kid I come in contact with, or at the dinner table or in the rooms, it's something that can be so simple, yet because we live in this hustle bustle, time is money, it's not. So it's very interesting. My brain first went to, work, situations I've been in. And then I think of that next generation. I think this is so important. I'm really enjoying this.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Elaine.
Just at a really, really simple level, being engaged brings me a great deal of joy. And I like to think that I can bring joy to other people. Just simple.
It's a good one. It's a good one. Yeah, Josephine.
It's not exactly the answer to the question on the table, but it just keeps bringing up for me the thoughts of, it's going to sound maybe not to you guys, but like, it's incredible how much we don't listen to other people, right? Like, it just kind of like one of those emojis where your brain is exploding out of the top of your head. Just, like everything we're saying collectively is like so much of even something, for me, it's hitting home, like when people are invited to the table to have a conversation and they're not even listened, they're not engaged, they're not listened to, they're not, I think they're there. I'm not saying it the best political way, but they're there to check off a box that you invited them because you're supposed to, for whatever reason you're supposed to, right? Like, or just all of it, like our personal lives, all of it. Hildy, like you said, like when are we given the time to just slow down and actually think? So it just, just like, I think I was like one of those outer body experiences, seeing your body laying there. I was just seeing all that we're talking about just in my realm of the space of life where it's happened, where it's so obvious that people aren't being engaged or valued or listened to or even invited to the table at that point. So I just wanted to share that. That's all bubbling so much.
Yeah, and engagement as the antidote to that. Yeah, real engagement, the kind we were talking about last week. Yeah, Beatriz.
I was just thinking, right? We're talking about engagement, and at the same time we're separating kind of by groups. Like, well, we were talking about, like the Proud Boys and how they are engaged within. But I was just thinking of when we are talking about this, where do we find the commonalities? The stuff that we're actually, at the end of the day, it seems that we all care about the same things. Where have we lost that capacity of connecting with each other and finding those commonalities? And some people call it, right, like some kind of rationality around the reaching across the aisle, right, when we are talking about politics. But there's been so much animosity, and we can blame people that have created that kind of environment. But how can we go back to actually listening to each other for real and engaging and understanding where people are coming from? Because I'm even thinking, right, when I hear the people that are so excited about Roe v. Wade being overturned, what is it that makes them feel that way? And how can maybe, we understand where they come from, and they understand where I come from. But that is also that engagement that I think we are missing. We are just going to where we know it's going to be joyful. Of course, it has to be joyful, right? As Elaine said, but also that bit of uncomfortableness or willingness of engaging others that are not on our same page.
Yeah. Absolutely. We've talked a lot about listening. We've talked about empowerment, stopping, listening, spaces for slowing down, people feeling included, people feeling connected, a sense of valued and belonging, eliminating the us and them. When that sense of connectedness happens, what does that make possible? What's the point? Okay, so we feel connected. What does that sense of connectedness make possible for those folks? And Elaine, I know you had your hand up before.
Well, it kind of connects these two things together, Hildy, and it's a simple example. We have currently a disagreement on our own road about whether it should be paved or not paved. And really, we're listening by thinking we need to get as many people saying that they want it paved or don't want it paved. But really, we need to understand and ask the question about what is it you're really looking for? What is it you're trying to achieve? It's not pavement. It's what is it you want? You want safety for your children. You want a dust-free house. You want better travel space so your car doesn't get wrecked, whatever it is. But we're not really asking the right question to listen, to create understanding. That's just a simple example.
Yeah. Listening to understand. Absolutely. And you know, it's that first set of questions in catalytic thinking, which is really all about what do we really want. Yeah, Justin.
I guess for me, in response to that question, you know, the piece that really, you know, based on the conversations that we've been having, is validation. People feel validated and worthy.
And what does that make possible for them?
Well, I think that creates a sense of stability, a sense of security, which then creates a sense of confidence to be able to engage and actively construct a world. I mean, I think that affirmation, that validity, you know, I mean, given the train of some of the conversations we've just been having, you know, when you are in a state of despair, you are not inclined to create or to actively participate in a variety of things. And so we're flipping that switch, that if people feel validated, if they feel valued, I think they are much more inclined to not have as much feeling of desperation.
Yeah, yeah. And if people were not feeling so much of what we talked about, helpless, despair, the mental health crisis, if people were not feeling that, what would that make possible for all of us? For them, for our communities?
The first thing that comes to my mind is just like the possibility of a better world. Like we will all be more willing to give. No, like right now it feels like the whole world is just in such despair. We are all a bit angry or a bit, you know, of course worried with everything that is happening. But so that is what comes to my mind. That it'd be we might have more willingness to continue going and making things better.
Yep. What else? If people feel everything that Justin talked about, that stability, that security, that confidence, the ability to start creating a better world, less despair, less crisis mode, what does that make possible? Yeah, Alicia.
I think a sense of unity, something that is very difficult to find. I think without those barriers, there'd be unity, there'd be more action, there'd be, quite frankly, more joy. So, yeah. So it really gets to the question that Elaine was asking is, okay, so if all of this stuff is real, what's the end goal? Why is this important? What is important about this? About everything that we've been talking about? If we get beyond the savior complex, which is a big one. If people have the opportunity to participate, to feel valued, why is that important for them? Sherry.
It's well, I was going to just say that the possibilities are endless, right? There's no end to what could happen, but I believe about what you just asked, I think it starts to make people think that I can be in a room or a community or a house or a school or a job where I don't agree, we don't all have the same thoughts and agree, but we can work together to come up with solutions. And I know that's been said earlier, I think there couldn't be more emphasis on that. I think Ron mentioned it, is that people can again begin to work together even when they don't believe exactly the same things, that they see hope in coming to solutions that I wouldn't call them are compromised, but that there's no arriving with the answer. It's working together to get there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Ron.
Yeah, I guess I'll just build on that, that I think this will give you the belief that there is a way to affect change, and that maybe along what Justin was saying, and that it will become evident as I feel my energies reflected on whatever I'm working on. So in my case, you know, in retirement, I'm wondering, well, what can I do to make this system a little better for our kids? I don't know the answer to that, but I think that is part of it, that you need to resonate with whatever small section work that's being done in your community, maybe, and believe that you can make a difference. And then this gives you the process to do that, maybe, or to give you the confidence that you could be more effective.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. Very much so. I love the phrasing of I see my energy reflected in that. Thank you for that. Carl.
I think engaging people in the way that we talk gives them dignity. Too much of what we do in our sector is based around old notions of philanthropy and charity. It's about doing things to people, when the models that give me most, and I'm sure everyone else, most optimism, are about doing things with people alongside them.
Yep. 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 Elaine, and then I'm going to switch to a different question.
Yeah, well, for me, what's coming up is, you know, a hope that we could reduce tribalism, which is generated out of anger. We had a prime example of that in Ottawa here, and our government refused to even talk to people. And it, again, giving people that channel to actually have a conversation, to be listened to be understood. And that would be my hope, that we could reduce tribalism, that we all were here to know how we could make each other better, hence creating a better future. Thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The thought that's occurring to me is, you know, we frequently talk about that math line of -1 + 1 and 0 in the middle, and that the eventual goal is to get to 2 + 1, is to get to something good, a humane, equitable, healthy world. We're at about -27 right now. And so much of what we're talking about here, if nothing else, reducing the amount of physical violence in the world. If people feel, you know, the question I was asking, if people feel belonging, if they feel engaged, if they feel valued, they're less likely to walk into a classroom or a movie theater, or, you know, here in the States, or in another country, they're less likely to take over the neighboring village. They're less likely to invade another country. I mean, it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. And there's something there about, you know, could we please, dear God, get to 0 in the place where we're sitting right now. The question that I have in our remaining time, and then I want to quit at 1/4 so that we can share some reflections, is what does this type of engagement that we're talking about make possible for creating the future? What does it make possible for us? Yeah, Rachel.
I think that it would make a community of trust possible between creating the future and anyone who engages with creating the future going forward, they can trust the organization, and that's huge these days. And with that can come a lot of wonderful possibilities from feedback, listening. They know that their voices are heard. They know that they're valued and their time is valued. And I think really meaningful community impact can come out of that.
Awesome. Wonderful. Wow. Yeah, Madeline.
I think it makes the job easier for us in terms of having to spread or wanting to share, this framework with the world. There's more people that are doing it, so we have to do less of it, which then unlocks us to discover like what is the next big framework or idea or possibility to discover that furthers that mission even further.
Yeah. People feeling their energy is reflected in the continuity. I'm reading what you wrote, Justin. Do you want to share that, Justin, with all of us?
Well, I think just dovetailing a bit off of what Ron was saying, but if people are engaged the way we're talking about, they're going to feel reflected in creating the future, and what creating the future will be doing in the future. That's the continuity piece. So hopefully more people feel like they have a stake in being a part of that moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sherry.
I was just sitting here trying to remember. I think, I don't know that I've ever felt in my span of career at this point, like there was a new starting point, like a new place to begin. Absolutely not very excited that COVID kind of put us there, but it's almost like there's an opportunity here now that we can begin again. And it either, some things matter about what you felt and how you felt and what you've done before, but I always have the Scarlett O'Hara theme, which is, tomorrow's another day and you can always start again. And so, thinking of it being a bad thing, that something so dramatic has happened, but now starting to see this group and then starting to be able to finally meet with people again, there's almost a feeling of, let's get on with it. There's a new beginning. And I think that's been exciting, especially for myself and Josephine, who's on the call here, as we've been talking to some young people. They're just ready to share and work hard for their community. And so that to me has been interesting. And I've just been thinking about that as everyone has a different degree of readiness, correct? I mean, some people have been very eager to be ready. Some are not sure. And so I think what we're doing here and what we're talking about allows us to work with folks to get them moving and help them get out of that. And they think they seem excited, at least for the ones that we've engaged so far.
Yeah, absolutely. What else does the kind of engagement we're talking about make possible for what's next for creating the future? There's something about it being about, Carl mentioned before, instead of doing two people, doing with people, doing our work together. There's so much of the way, because so many of our systems are rooted in the business world, where I have an idea, I'm going to build a bake shop and I'm going to do it because I love to bake, and I'm going to get out there and I'm going to advertise and I'm going to market and it's all my idea that I'm bringing out to the world. We emulate that. We are actually taught that, though that is part of what we are taught in program development. Is if you come up with an idea, here's how to deal with your idea. And the first thing isn't go out and talk to a whole lot of people for a year. Never. At the end of the process, we may come up with a focus group and we may or may not listen to what the focus group says. And so there's something powerful in co-designing, co-creating whatever is next, so that it's co-owned. You know, we wind up using words like buy-in. We'll get the community's buy-in, which is so Madeline, us and them language. You know, we need their buy-in. What can we do to get their buy-in? They don't need to be bought in if it's theirs. And so there's something, for me, very, very powerful in that. Which I guess what that makes possible is what all of what we're talking about here is what you all started to say, and I'm trying to get who basically said it, but I'm not there in my notes. That you know, the bottom line is that the mission is successful. That I'm not entirely sure how. And I don't think it's just our mission. I think it's any mission. I don't understand how a mission could be successful if it's one group coming out with their idea, telling it to the world, and thinking they're the smartest ones in the room. There's something powerful in I think the only way we can accomplish these things that we want to do with our communities, if we stop doing them, as Carl said, to our communities. Yeah, Dimitri.
Just lots of different thoughts going through my head. I'm thinking about ecosystems and monocultures. And my idea for me is a monoculture, but engaging with others to work together is an ecosystem. And one can be, and I know, Mark, you talked about resiliency. One is resilient. The other can break in a stiff wind. So that's one sort of thought that floated in my head. And the other one is, there's two others. One is energy, that engaging with others gives both of you more energy. And it also, you know, I talked about assumptions early on. I'm thinking about, you know, we waste so much energy based on assumptions, and we end up battling each other, battling ideas, battling whatever, and a tremendous amount of energy goes into that, as opposed to what does our world look like? You know, what does society look like? What does our civilization look like in the world, in the universe, as opposed to my tribe is better than your tribe, or my tribe is afraid of your tribe and needs to put up walls, needs to do whatever. So sort of thinking of this in very, very general ways, but I believe it can make a huge difference, not only to create the future, but the world as we engage with each other.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Carl.
Hildy, I know that you don't mean it like this, but it's almost like we're framing the question like we have to justify doing this, or we have to make the case for doing it. And I almost want to flip it around and say, what's the risk if you don't do it? Because I think that's where the balance, it feels to me, lies. And if you sort of think about where society has gone, and where companies will talk about how customers come up with the best innovations, quite frequently that they've got. If you look at fundraising and what's happened in fundraising in the last 10 or sort of 20 years, things like the Ice Bucket Challenge and so on, the best ideas don't come from within organizations, they come from outside. So for me, the question is, what's the risk if we don't do this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the exercises that we frequently use for decision making is what we talk about as worst. What's the worst that we could do? What's the worst that could happen if we do this? And what's the worst that could happen if we don't do this? And then you compare those two worsts, which is actually way, way better than pros and cons, just as an aside. Pros and cons talk to two different parts of our brain. So the cons is talking to the part of our brain that basically rules everything, which is the fears that can override the rational part of our brain in about 3 seconds. The pros is always talking about the frontal lobe, and we're trying to get them to argue with each other. And so if we ask, what's the worst that could happen if we do, and the worst that could happen if we don't, we've actually got both parts talking to each other. So, but yeah, it is. And we've talked about what the risk is right here. It's everything that we've been talking about, Carl. You're right. The violence, the current situation in the world. Absolutely. Absolutely. So in terms of what this makes possible for creating the future, any other thoughts as we're talking about really what is next for creating the future? Any other thoughts about what this kind of engagement makes possible for what's next for creating the future and our mission? I guess one of the thoughts that I have, and Carl, I don't know if your hand is still up or if you've got something. Okay. One of the thoughts that I have, and I don't know if it was something that we talked about last time, but is engagement for our mission, because our work is a concept. You know, we're not feeding people, we're not housing people. We are trying to spread a way of thinking, a way of processing, a way of making decisions. When I think about engagement for our mission, and for many of the missions of you all, because you're working with concepts as well, the goal is to ripple out. You know, just like I said before, when people are asking these questions of people we don't know, are asking questions of people that we don't know. The goal is that this ripple out. The goal when we talk about homelessness is that, in part, that our communities become more compassionate places to live, and that ripples out. But regardless of what we're talking about, so much of what we're talking about is overcoming that feeling of helplessness, and we can't do something. That the engagement is actually the mission. There's a big piece in my mind as we're talking about it, it's just sort of sparking for me that engaging people in creating the future's future, creating the future's work, is actually the mission. Is to get people engaged, to get people thinking, to get people talking, to get people being together, working together. It's suddenly occurring to me as we're talking here, that creating those ripples is our mission, which it is for so many of, I can't think of any of the work that any of you all are doing that's not a huge part of the mission. Wow.
Hildy, did you read Vu's blog this morning?
No, I didn't.
Well, when one of the sort of points, Vu was commenting, you'll be unsurprised to hear about Roe versus Wade, and what funders have now got to do. And he says that you've got to fund voter engagement, and the fact that this sort of declining engagement with public policy and civic life is something that we've all got a job in doing. And it sort of sounds right to me. And I linked to something a bit before. I've been reading a bit of stuff about membership organizations and the decline of mass membership organizations in America, over here as well. And part of the problem is that the leadership of organizations is professionalized. And as it's professionalized, it's become distant from those memberships. And those memberships, as we've discussed already on here, people sort of like think, well, why bother getting engaged? Because I don't see anything changing and so on. So your point, it sort of strikes me as, A, we've got a job in terms of just engaging people in the world around them and giving them the means to change that sort of world around them. But also coming back to sort of the laboratory point of what we are, is that we've got to prove them that it's possible and that actually it's worthwhile.
Yeah. Rachel.
I think along with those ripples, Hildy, is like new approaches to philanthropy are going to become possible with that. And that's something that's really exciting because, you know, engaging different groups of people in the community together, maybe even for the first time, that is a wonderful possibility to open new pathways to impact in the community.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, we are at almost 10 minutes to the hour. I am so grateful for the conversation today. And this is a moment for us to take a deep breath in and out. We've all been sitting still for this long. You know, it's always so funny. I always wish that we could find a spot where it made sense in this 2 hours to take a break, and it never makes sense. It's like there's no pause. There's no, oh, this is the logical point. We'll take a break. But let's, if you took any notes today, please circle anything that stood out to you. And let's just take a moment to share what is standing out to you from our conversation today. What are you bringing out of the room with you? And Dimitri, you have a quick one.
I'm just thinking about the word engagement and being engaged. I'm engaged in this meeting. When I'm engaged in an activity, I lose track of time. I don't know what else is going on. I'm just in the meeting. I'm just in the activity. And so one of the other things about engagement is it so covers you entirely. You become completely it. These meetings always do that. So I feel engaged in these, and as a result, I never believe 2 hours are up. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Justin.
I think what's really standing out for me is the idea of seeing yourself reflected in something bigger and feeling a part of that. So, you know, connected to others, but so it's both being connected to a collective and diverse group, but also seeing yourself and your experience reflected in that group.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, Josephine.
I love the fact that it continues to, I'm trying to think of the best word, it continues to make me remember about engagement, right? Like makes it a priority, top of mind, not an afterthought or I'm heading to this and, you know, I want to try to make sure everyone's engaged, but like a daily way of being and all that's occurring. I appreciate that about these calls.
Yeah. Beatriz.
Thank you. I'm highlighting the, I think Justin said this, engaging with others gives you more energy. I'm not sure if it was him or, but yeah, I'm just thinking about that, right? Like how actually when we need that connection with other people to feel like, you know, like we are not alone in this, that we can actually make the changes that we want. And following Dimitri's thought about, you know, how time flies when you're having fun, right? Like it feels that this is also it. And I was thinking about Alicia's, I think it was Alicia when she mentioned how people are so much in their cell phones and that we might not be the ones that are also showing up in that same manner. Like sometimes I catch myself with friends and we are all sitting at a table and we are looking at our phones and I'm like, what am I doing? And especially, you know, the time that you spend with people face to face is precious. So that thinking, right, in here as well, like I kept on looking if I had emails and I'm like, no, Beatriz, stay here, be present. This is so important. Listen actively, and we learn so much. And it is true, just time flies when I'm with you guys.
Rachel.
Yeah, for me, it's the possibility that effective engagement can bring equitable opportunities for different people in the community to come together and co-own it, as you said earlier. That's something that's just been sticking with me since you said it.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Ron, what's standing out to you?
I think I just have a big appreciation for everyone on the call, reminded of that when we go through these calls, and to you, Hildy, and Dimitri, for and all those people for the last 5 years or more now that have stuck to it and made this thing what it is. I think it's a real bright light in a dark world. So thank you.
Well, you shed some of that light, so thank you. Carl, how about you?
As everyone said, it has gone quickly today, actually. What do I think? Well, just as usual, you know, in the time sort of like the conversations are really rich, and it doesn't sort of like feel like we're working or sort of anything like that, if that makes sense. I'm afraid I can't point to a particular thing this evening, Hildy.
Good. It's okay. Having you here is a joy. Thank you. Thank you. Elaine, how about you?
Well, this is going to sound kind of strange, but I've only just met most of you, and yet you've all touched my heart. And I can say that I feel love for each one of you, and I feel loved by each one of you for this conversation. So you've touched my heart and you've sparked my brain. And wow, thank you.
That's beautiful. Angie, how about you? What's standing out to you?
Yeah, thank you, Elaine, for that. I've been really listening and learning a lot. I kind of study this area, and so I've been thinking a lot about different people I've been reading or thinking about lately, as you've all been talking, I guess. And one thing that stuck out to me is how all of this is important to making us be human and think of each other as humans, which I think is at the essence of so many issues that we're dealing with right now, is people not seeing each other as humans, and also non-human. Actually, I really like Ron's point about thinking about, we need to be thinking about us in relation to the world and the earth that may continue, hopefully will continue to exist. And I also have been reading lately a book by Arturo Escobar called Designs for the Pluriverse, and he makes an argument about how we're all designers and we are all designed. And I think that is kind of the essence too of a lot we've been talking about today. And then finally, I've been reading Miriam Kaba, who does work on abolition, but her her thought about hope as a discipline also seems really relevant to a lot of what we've been talking about today. And I really appreciate everybody's thoughts.
Wow. Thank you. Mark, how about you? What's standing out to you today?
Well, we were drifting around and making people feel valued and worthwhile and paid attention to and listened. But Elaine just brought out the L word, the love word, which we've been skirting for almost 2 hours now. Why can't we talk about it? We should. Maybe not at the beginning of the meeting for people who just met us. Maybe a little tinfoil hat for some people, and I'm finding that we're stretching those limits in a lot of cases. I'm also working on succession planning, and I've got a group of people, and this is my theory, that we need somebody who's 20, 35, 50, 65, and 80 in a group to just kick around what is going on from those vastly different perspectives. But I'm also seeing that the tools I'm gathering here are starting to spread to these people so that they're starting to use engagement, especially in community engagement. And they're using engagement just automatically. It becomes unconscious, if you will. It becomes second nature, or we're becoming unconsciously competent at the things we're doing. So it's not a discipline that I'm handing off or teaching, that because the teaching thing is good at some level, but more of giving and sharing becomes the model or the paradigm that people start absorbing and bringing them these ideas into themselves.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Lori, you've been thinking today. I've been watching your brain do this. And you're muted. I want to remind you you're muted.
Thank you. I love reminders. I am going back to the question about what would it be like if people were engaged. And I was like, there were so many great answers, but I was like way back at the beginning of like, people would be willing to speak up, not be so worried about how they sound, not be worried that people would, I don't know, find more reasons to dismiss them. And that if people felt like that, it feels like then we could shift the attention from all the ways that we have failed to do this up until now. Like we just don't have to, I mean, not like we can walk away from the fact that we really haven't done things well yet without learning from it, but like it just doesn't have to be front of mind. And then if we didn't have that, then, oh gosh. Oh, I'm not going to remember who said this, darn it. Then we just get to begin again. Do you know, and then be able to hold ourselves to the, why are we here? What is it that we're caring about? Why are we here? Let's go do that. I don't know. You know how you guided us to circle things. I have like 30 circles today. I'll stop here.
That's wonderful.
It really is. It really is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sherry, how about you?
Well, initially, I kind of followed a little bit with what Lori was saying, which is, I know sometimes there might be an awkward silence before the answer of the question, but what I have already learned about this group is that shouldn't be foreseen as I don't care, or I'm trying to word something a certain way. It's about really trying to provide a meaningful comment, and how do you phrase that? And in this group, it seems well to do that, and I'm seeing that all around. So, but then secondly, when the word engaged was just used, it made me think of it's a beginning. It's a beginning of people coming together, starting somewhere and thinking about what your role in the future is and what your commitment is, and that you've already made a commitment by engaging this conversation together. Now, what does that truly mean? That means more of a commitment. That means more meaningful work. And so I kind of circled, this is the beginning, but it's down a path that we've all agreed to go together with. And I'm just excited to each time to see what happens, what the next step is.
Me too. Madeline, how about you? What's standing out to you today?
I'm really thinking about what Dimitri and I think Justin were saying about energy and ecosystems, because a healthy ecosystem doesn't panic. Like, it doesn't have a crisis, right? Like if something gets out of balance, the ecosystem's able to kind of fluidly pivot and shift the energy just naturally to where the attention is needed. You know, the river doesn't say, well, I don't know if I'm qualified for this. The groundhogs don't say like, well, we got to apply for grants for this. You know, there's no long planning sessions or anything like that. We just know what roles that we fill, and we're able to just pivot the energy to where it's needed, to whoever needs it the most. And humans are kind of the only species that doesn't do that. Like I said, the groundhogs don't get together and have strategic planning sessions, but we do. And I want the future to be where we are part of that ecosystem in that just kind of natural way where we know our roles and we know what we need to do to fill the needs of each other.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, that's fun.
Beautiful, just beautiful. Yeah, yeah. What is standing out to me, first of all, is the joy of the conversation. So thank you all. I am missing those of our integrity team members who were not here today, Vu and Farah and Eli. I want their voices. I find myself throughout this conversation, I've been missing them. So they're going to get notes from me saying, I miss you, which is again, a really different note than why weren't you at the meeting, but I miss you. What we have been doing today, reaching for that highest potential of what does engagement make possible, is what we are going to be holding the space for as we move forward. That is, and so much of engagement is so transactional anymore. What we talk about as engagement, we engage so that people will give us money, so that people will volunteer, so that it's all about me and my organization and etc. What we talked about today, the reason we reach for that high potential outcome is what does engagement make possible, is that's what we want to hold the space for as we're moving forward. And I'm excited this is something pretty cool to hold the space for. So thank you all. And we will be getting together again in the next couple of weeks. I think July 11th is when the next integrity team meeting is. The cohort will be getting together, I think, this Friday. I know that is Canada Day for our Canadian compatriots. And so some will be joining us, some won't. And happy Canada Day to all of the Canadians. July 4th is this coming Monday, which is sort of our equivalent is US Independence Day. And I hope we're all thinking about what we talked about today on those days. That it is about us and how we fit in like groundhogs with all the rest of the world. Thank you for that, Madeline. I'm going to be carrying that with me.